Hello, hello. Hello, Joan. Hello, Kristen. Hello, JD. Hello, Annie. Hey, everybody. All right. Still got some people rolling in. Welcome to How to Fix Your Meetings in 45 Minutes. Hello, Christine. Hello, Cedra. I'm Claire. I'll be your captain today. We only have 45 minutes together, so I am going to just jump right into it as people kind of roll in these first few minutes. So Hey, hi, hello there. I'm Claire. I'll be your captain today. I am the founder of the Meeting Medic. I'm the co-author of the upcoming Facilitators Field Guide, and I'm one half of the Facilitator Cards team. All of this is just to say that I really enjoy talking about facilitation, and particularly facilitation when it comes to meetings. I think meetings are just going through kind of a PR crisis right now, and I want to help people really fix them and make them better because I personally think that meetings are one of the most important things that we do together. And the opportunities with meetings are huge. And so when we can take advantage of those opportunities, we improve everything. So today we'll be discussing why meetings matter. We're going to define the role of the facilitator in a meeting, and we're going to discover how to instantly improve our meetings or your money back. Today, we'll be doing that by having some breakout room discussions. We're going to do some writing. We're going to brainstorm some ideas together. And collectively, we're going to make meetings matter. I really believe that we can do it. So since we're on a Zoom and I can't see and wave and say hi to all of you, what I would love to do is have everybody just open up the chat and just pop in there. Where are you calling in from today? I am calling in from Ridgewood, New York, so I'm right on the border of Bushwick and Queens. So it's a balmy 75-ish degree day. All right, we're all over the map here. Wisconsin, Indianapolis, right outside Virginia, Durham, North Carolina. All right, 2 North Carolina people here. All right, cool. Great. Thank you all so much. My next question, and I'm going to unspotlight myself if I can. Ooh. Remote spotlight. There we go. My next question, on a scale from 1 to 5, how excited are you to plan your next meeting? You can just go ahead and hold your fingers up to the screen. If your camera's off, go ahead and pop your answer in the chat. I'm not showing mine. How excited are you to plan your next meeting? All right, we got some 2s, 3s. I'm over here representing 5s. Amazing. Thank you all so much. Cool. All right. I know that's not a question a lot of people get asked about how excited they are to plan things, but I am a Virgo, so I get very excited. So I'm glad that everybody's got a little bit of a different mood there. 3-ish. Ish is my favorite thing to add to a number. All right. Because you have your cards. Oh my God. I love facilitator cards. We'll talk about those later. Virgos represent. Our birthdays are coming up. It's about to be our season. Perfect time to get excited about planning things. Okay, so we are about to do that breakout room discussion that I mentioned. So you're going to be put into a pair breakout room. If anybody has any questions about that, before you go to your breakout room, feel free to stick around and I'll answer them. In our breakout rooms, we are going to be having a discussion about meetings, and we're going to do this in a really particular way. So we are going to do some declarative pairs. So today, everybody will speak for 1 minute, and you're just going to fill in the same sentence over and over again. So the sentence you're going to be filling in today is meetings are bad when. So in your pairs, one of you will start, you'll say meetings are bad when X, meetings are bad when Y, and you'll do that for a full minute. And then you're going to switch, and your partner will start, and they'll do their full minute of meetings are bad when Z, meetings are bad when A. You went all the way around. All right. So meetings are bad when. These instructions are now in the chat, so you can reference those when you're in your breakout rooms. There will be a 3-minute timer in your breakout rooms. So when you get in there, you can use that to keep track of your minute. And then when the 3 minutes are over, we'll come on back and we will do something else. All right. I'm about to send you off to the breakout rooms. So if anybody has any questions, feel free to stick around. Otherwise, I will see you in 3 minutes. Thank you all so much for being game for a pair breakout room right off the bat. It's always a fun one. All right. There we all are. Hello, hello. Welcome back. I hope everybody had a great time with their partner. If you did get cut off, feel free to throw anything that you were about to say into the chat, and we might not know what you're talking about, but you get to have like a secret fun share secret with your partner, and that's always fun. All right. So the next thing that we are going to do in this kind of spirit of what makes meetings bad, we are going to do some opposite thinking. So I'm going to pin myself once again so everybody can see this. What I would love to know from everybody is if you wanted to run a terrible meeting, how would you do that? And I'm going to be making this list live, so if everybody just wouldn't mind contributing by just coming off of mute and just shouting out their answer, if you wanted to run a terrible meeting, what would you do?
Hog the
No
mic.
agenda.
I heard two things at once. Sorry.
I said no agenda.
No agenda. Perfect. And what was the other one I missed?
Hog the mic.
Hog the mic. All right. Anybody else how to run a terrible meeting?
An agenda with too many items.
Too much on the agenda. No editing here. My personal one is start meetings late. That is my personal big pet peeve when it comes to good versus bad meetings. Anyone else, just things that make you leave and go like, oh, that was not my best, or that was not their best, or any just bad meetings.
The only it's sort of like a lack of protocol, like that the only people who speak are like raise their hand.
Yep, only a few people speak.
Mm-hmm.
Reading from the slides.
Reading from the slides.
Telling everybody things that you already sent them in an email.
So repeating information.
Yes.
All right.
A small group dominating the conversation.
Small group. Yeah, dominate. I'm trying to speak and type. Okay. Small group dominating the conversation. Meetings that don't end on time. That is also right in there with meetings that start late. Meeting ends late. Running long. That's a tough one. Okay. So.
I have one more.
Yes.
Having a meeting at a mealtime and not providing any food.
Meeting over a mealtime, no food provided. No food is a huge one for that, but also I would just like to point out that if somebody starts like thinking about lunch and then the person keeps talking for longer than I would say like 5 minutes, you've lost everybody in the room. Everybody is looking over there at the snacks that they're eager to get, and like there's not a lot of merit in us continuing to talk at that point. As soon as food arrives, I like a countdown clock should start in everybody's head of like I have about 5 minutes before I lose everyone to the idea of food. Okay. Biased presenters, that is a huge one. I think that like we as facilitators have a ton of control over a lot of these things, and biased presentation is a really great one. I'm going to add that right to the bottom. Invite people for who the meeting is not relevant. Unedited guest list. That is huge. Thank you so much for that contribution, Eileen. That is again, just a huge one. All right. We've had to make this list quite small on my screen at this point because there are so many things that can create just like a terrible meeting environment for people. Joan, you were thinking differently, like not getting anyone to participate. I think that the lack of participation is absolutely in that kind of terrible meeting thing that goes into only a few people speak or a small group dominating the conversation. No group agreements. Yes. The more that we can kind of like set a baseline for how we want people to interact, for how we want people to agree with each other, or how we're going to reach an agreement, that's great. Meeting to meet. It's Tuesday at 11, whether we need it or not. Yes. Thank you so much for that, Sarah. That is actually going to segue us perfectly into kind of the next thing we're going to talk about. Okay. So I'm going to pop this list just in the chat just so that everybody has it. I would really like to spend some time thinking about if these are all the ways we can run a terrible meeting, theoretically, we can just do the opposite of all of these things and run a great meeting. But also, what Sarah was saying about meeting to meet. A lot of meetings happen in kind of these default modes. They're on the calendar, and so everybody is just meeting to meet. We know that on Tuesday we meet. And what I think as facilitators, we can really have a lot of like power and influence in considering is the goal of a meeting. Why? And another way to think about this is, why are we having this meeting? Why are we meeting? What are we hoping to get out of it? Who's coming to the meeting? Is that unedited guest list thing? And why are we having this meeting can feel like a really big question, or it can be a really small question. Not all meetings are the same. Meetings really range. The medium is wide and varied. So I've kind of broken down 4 major categories, but these don't cover all of the goals that individuals may have going into a meeting. But when I think about this, like the whys, why are we having this meeting? I think of them in these kind of 4 main categories. Are we having this meeting to connect with each other? Is it like a 20-minute stand-up sprint and we're going around and we're just saying like, this is what I'm working on, this is what I'd like help with, this is where I'll be this week? Is it to come up with ideas? Are we having a brainstorm meeting? Is everybody who's meeting today there to contribute their ideas? Are we having a meeting to inform/clarify? Are we having a meeting where people are going to be asking questions and getting responses? Are we having this meeting just so that we can say, everybody was in that meeting, so I know you all know about X? That is another big purpose that people have meetings for. Are we having this meeting to make decisions? And when we as facilitators are really clear about the goal of the meeting, it's a lot easier for us to double check that our plans will actually help the group achieve this goal. Sometimes when we're in a meeting, we are also a participant, but a lot of times when we're kind of in control of the meeting, we have a lot more influence to make sure that these things are happening. So the role of the facilitator is to answer how. It's to figure out the how we're going to do those things. So how are we going to connect today? How are we coming up with ideas? How are we clarifying? And how are we going to make those decisions? I think a lot of times, especially with the decisions one, people leave and they go like, we didn't make a decision. And my big question is always like, what was the plan? How were you planning to make that decision? Was it a vote? Was it an anonymous ballot? Was it just people raising their hands? And once we have control over those hows, it becomes a lot easier for us to make sure that we are going to hit that goal and that our group is going to leave feeling like they achieved the purpose of the meeting. I left connected with everybody. I left and I got to throw an idea in there. I left with clarity and I left with next steps. And if we do that, I think we can like really increase the general kind of like tenor of meetings and help people kind of like really remember why meetings matter so much. Okay, that's my little speech on the roles and the goals. So the role of the facilitator is to help the group achieve their goal. We don't have to have the best ideas, we just have to create the container for the group to have their best ideas. Okay. I'm about to screen share, and I always like to say that because I know it can be really disorienting. So I'm about to screen share, and what I would love everybody to do is annotate my slide. So now that I've screen shared, in the bottom left-hand corner of your Zoom, there should be this kind of circle with a green pencil in it. If it's not appearing for you, go over and find that audio button and hover like half an inch above it, and it should appear. Once that appears, go ahead and click on it, and then find this check mark, this stamp, and go ahead and click on that. And then you can just give me a stamp anywhere on this page. All right, got some stamps rolling in. Ooh, some people got fancy with their stamps. Amazing. Stamp, stamp, stamp. All right, you can stamp as much as you want to for the next 3 seconds. Go ahead, stamp them up. All right, and stop. Perfect. Thank you all so much. What we're going to do, the next slide is going to have a spectrum on it. It's going to say strongly agree to strongly disagree. And you're just going to place your stamp where you fall on that spectrum in relation to the statement above it that I will be reading out. Okay, so I give myself enough time to plan my meetings. Strongly disagree, strongly agree. All right, look at that range. Okay, beautiful. Thank you all so much. Next spectrum. I know how to start meetings efficiently. All right. So interesting to see how the information, how it varies from slide to slide. In my meetings, the same people tend to share over and over again. All right. Pretty universal experience we're having here. I feel confident navigating conflict when it arises. All right. Thank you all so much. Got 2 left. I would be reticent to do anything resembling an activity with my group. All right. Great. Always fun information to find out about people. And the last question, I leave most meetings feeling satisfied. Okay, wonderful. Great. Well, my hope is that with today, we can take some of those of us who might be on that disagree side and move us closer to that strongly agree side. But thinking about that kind of satisfaction and getting satisfaction from a meeting, I've spent the last few months talking to a ton of people about their meetings, and that word satisfaction kind of kept coming up. Just thinking about what makes a meeting satisfying for people. And how can we as facilitators really like increase the likelihood that everybody leaves our meetings feeling satisfied? Joan, me and Meg are not twins, but I am her younger sister. I'm a little bit younger than her. So I know we also have very similar voices. So if we ever put anything into a like transcription service, it can never tell the difference. But sorry, to go back to that satisfaction. How can we help people feel satisfied with our meetings, and how can we leave our meetings feeling like I nailed it, I accomplished our goal? And what I kind of kept coming back to over and over again was that we need to make people feel important. We need to make it feel like it was important that they specifically were there. And I think that that is it can be like a really abstract concept, like what makes people feel important. Important is a hard word for my Vermont accent, so I'm sorry, important. How can we help people feel like their time was really well spent? Like we didn't just kind of arbitrarily have an 11 o'clock meeting, but we were thinking about them and like how they would connect or how they would contribute ideas or be part of making the decision. We use their expertise to gain that clarity. And if we can make people feel important, I really think we can up the overall satisfaction in meetings. And I think the easiest way to make people feel important is to give them the opportunity to contribute to the conversation. We talked a little bit in the beginning about only a few people speaking or having like a small group really dominate that conversation. And I think that that's really true. And I think that that happens more often than we would like. And when I was thinking about this kind of question about like contribution, I came back to this kind of like default meeting mode. Meetings kind of happen in this default setting. We know what to expect, so not a lot of, sometimes people are putting a lot of thought into it, and sometimes people are putting almost no thought into it. But meetings kind of default to one style of communication, and that is out loud and with the full group. So anytime we're asking for an idea, we say, does anybody have any ideas? And then they have to say their idea out loud in front of everybody. And these 2 factors are just the default. This isn't bad, but this is appealing to those few people who speak over and over again. The people who are willing to do this, they're usually willing to do other things too, but because we default to this, we hear their voices most. And so I would just like to propose that by changing one or both of these factors, we can instantly increase that opportunity for contribution for people. So I'll give you some examples just from this workshop right now. In the very beginning, I asked you a question just to hold up your hands about how excited you were. So that was with the full group, but it wasn't out loud. But everybody participated. Everybody was able to throw their number into the chat. If they didn't want to have their camera on, that was great. And then we did an out loud thing where the partners went into pair breakout rooms and they had an out loud discussion, and that wasn't with the full group. So everybody was able to speak to their partner. Even people who haven't spoken in the full group got a chance to talk for 1 minute. The other thing I want to note about this is when it comes to facilitator math, there are 17 of us here today. So if I had wanted to ask you that question, meetings are bad when, and have every single person speak for 1 minute, it would have taken 17 minutes. But because we did it in pairs, it only took 3. And so then we were able to come back and everybody was able to have their thoughts kind of going, but without having to spend 17 minutes, which is almost half of this workshop, just in that intro. So when we think about like out loud and full group, if we vary one or both of these factors, we instantly increase that level of contribution or the opportunity for contribution from people. The other thing I'll say about this is that if we change one, which we've done already today, that's great. We can also change both by having people write. So the opposite of out loud and the opposite of full group is writing. They're doing it by themselves and they're doing it in silence. Worked with a lot of facilitators last couple months, and silence is a really, I think, like interesting part of meetings. Silence always happens. When we ask a question, there's always going to be some silence before people start giving their answers. And that makes sense. It's because people are thinking. But I see a lot of facilitators start to really panic in those moments of silence. They question if their instructions weren't correct. They start to worry that people aren't going to respond. And so that's when we start to kind of get ahead of ourselves. We start to give examples or we say things in a different way. And everybody who's thinking is like, wait, let me think. And so it delays that kind of conversation even more. So before I say anything else, what I would love for everyone to do is just pull out a piece of paper and a pen, and we are going to do some writing for a really short amount of time. All right. Once everybody's got that, I'm going to put a timer on the screen in just a few seconds. And what we're going to be writing about today is just how might having people write before they respond change participation in a meeting? How might having people write before they respond change participation in a meeting? All right. The timer has begun. See you then. All right. If you're still writing, you can go ahead and just finish up your last thought there. Amazing. Thank you all for writing. What we are going to do now is go back into a breakout room with just three or four other people. And you're just going to discuss what you wrote down. I'll see you back here in about 2 to 3 minutes. Actually, there's 4 of you in a room. We'll see you back here in about 4 to 5 minutes. Okay. Have fun in your breakout rooms. All right. Everybody's back. So I hope you had a lovely discussion with your group. What I would love to invite everybody to do is just open up the chat and just type one thing that you either wrote down or discussed with your group about how writing might change participation. Gives you a chance to pause, reflect, process, intentional. Slow processors to become confident in their responses. That is excellently worded, Kayla. Would you want to say more on what you think kind of like allows that to happen with the writing process?
I am a slow processor, so it's totally a selfish response. But all three, Sarah and JD, we all talked about it just allows you to really reflect on what you want to say and just gives you time. I think Sarah even said it allows slow processors to catch up with the fast thinkers. So yeah, I think we were kind of all on the same thread.
Totally. Yeah, I think a lot of the people who like this style works for, this out loud full group works for, I'd like to call them external processors. They process things as it's coming out. Their best processing is done out loud with other people. And so for those of us who are more internal processors who need a minute to think, writing kind of levels that playing field. Because we're still going to open it up afterwards to everyone. And so those external processors still get their moments to shine. We know exactly who those people are. I'm sure everybody could name three of them right now. And for those internal processors, we're kind of doing that crockpot thinkers. Yes, like those of us who need that kind of like extra little time or just like to have that moment. I think writing does a ton of things. We've mentioned a lot of them here. Encourage people who are afraid to speak out. Joan, it takes pressure off being silent. Exactly. I'm really obsessed with Christine's crockpot description. I think that's such a brilliant way to. I'll definitely be thinking about that. It allows people to feel involved. Yes. So all that writing does, it does so many things, but what it really does is opens up that like chance for contribution. The other things that I'll mention writing does is that it lets everybody leave with evidence of their thoughts. As soon as we have thoughts written down, we know why we went to that meeting. Even if we didn't get a ton out of it, we left with our own thoughts. I've never actually had anybody tell me, I don't want to think about myself for 1 minute. Most people enjoy having questions about themselves or their thoughts. And when we write things down, we become our first reference for our answer to that question. So if let's go with the goal of this meeting is to get ideas. So if I just said we're coming up on Q4, does anybody have any ideas of like marketing things we could try in Q4? If I don't allow for writing time, whatever gets said first is going to be everybody's reference point for the rest of that conversation. So no matter who speaks, and how good, bad, wonderful, non-probable their idea is, everybody is going to start saying, piggybacking off of Jerome's idea, or I had a really different idea than Jerome actually, or I'm not sure I answered this question correctly because I had such a different response. And so when we allow people to write things down, one, they don't have to remember what they're thinking, so they're able to pay more attention to what other people are saying in the room. They're not doing that like, oh, I hope nobody takes my response. I hope I don't forget because wow, what you want to stop using Instagram for marketing? That's a curveball. And so as soon as we have it written down, everybody can kind of relax. We know that we have our thoughts. We don't even have to remember them. We can just read them off the page. And there's so much that goes into that, like psychological safety, even of just having something to hold really helps people. And so a piece of paper can be the thing that they're holding, and that piece of paper can be full of all of their wonderful ideas. Rachel, you wrote, the time allows for more ideas and not just the fastest ideas. Would you want to tell us a little bit more about that? Rachel Loughren, I'm not sure. Are you up for speaking out? Oh, you can't. Okay, sorry. Great. So that fast idea thing, I actually saw in action happen once at a meeting. A boss was asking, like, we just accomplished this really huge goal. What does everybody want to do to celebrate? And this was, oh, you got
Sorry, it works now.
Yay!
Yeah, that was my own experience in writing down ideas. I did a bulleted list, and my first three were like kind of met. And then at the end, I was like, wow, because I had that whole minute, it almost gave me pressure to create more. And I liked my ideas at the end more than I liked my ideas at the beginning.
Yes, that's so wonderful. I'm so glad to hear that. I feel like timers create it opposite of a crock pot. They kind of create this pressure cooker situation for a lot of people where it's like, oh, I got to beat the buzzer. The Onion, the famous like satirical newspaper, their interns and writers used to have to come in every single Monday with 25 article ideas. And it just had to be 25. It didn't matter what 25 they were, if they were feasible, funny, it didn't matter. And what everybody used to say about that writing exercise was it just made them okay with writing down their not so great ideas because they just had to make it to 25. And I think like when we have that timer, when we're allowed to write, we get past those kind of like default responses of like, oh, we could try this, we could do this thing that other people have mentioned before, and we start to get into those like deeper ideas. We start to allow ourselves to kind of go past that surface level and go one layer down. And the longer the timer, the more, or the shorter the timer. If you tell people I need 10 ideas and you only have 2 minutes to do it, they will give you some unfeasible ideas, but they will be thinking that entire 2 minutes and pulling from like all of their resources to get to those ideas. So that's really, really wonderful. Okay. Thank you all so much. This was so great. This list is incredible. And we are about 6 minutes away from the end of this workshop, and this is going to be a good meeting, so we're going to end on time. So before we go, I just want to shout out some more kind of like opportunities. For more me and for more kind of meeting medic things. So the meeting medic was invented so that I could do and offer one-on-one coaching with people. So this ranges from like we'll review a specific agenda for a meeting or a workshop that you have coming up to make sure that you're hitting all the beats you want to hit, and we have those kind of like opportunities for how. And that has been really wonderful to get to do. And I've had like a wide range of clients, and it's been really cool. The other one is workshops. So like this one, or tailored to any organization's need. Workshops are a really great way to kind of bring everybody in. And what I love about meeting medic workshops is that they give everybody kind of like universal language to use around meetings. And so if you're trying to change meeting culture, sometimes just hitting a big restart button is the key to doing that. And so that's what those workshops are kind of there for. I do Zoom tech support. So I am a kind of like for-hire digital facilitator. And this came about because one of my clients asked if I would be willing to do it. I did it, and it worked so well that now I do it for other people too. So I run breakout rooms and chat and just kind of take that mental load off of the like, oh God, I have to make sure that this is happening and this is happening all while I'm trying to also facilitate. And the other thing, and this is kind of like my favorite thing I get to write every week, I have a Meeting Medic newsletter. It's totally free. It's over on Substack, and every single Monday I send out kind of what I call a thoughtful prompt to get your week going. So it's a writing exercise because as we've listed, there are so many wonderful reasons that spending even just 1 minute with our own thoughts and a piece of paper can really like transform the rest of the week. And so if you've been curious about like, oh, I like some of this writing and I'd like to do more of it, there are now 26 of those over there that have a prompt and all of the instructions for how to do it. So the Meeting Medic newsletter, and I will leave kind of all the links to those things in the chat. And now Zoom does chat previews, so everybody has a wonderful little preview of all of those websites. Okay, 4 minutes. What I would love is for everybody to open up the chat one more time and just type in their response to this question. In my next meeting, I want to blank. Identify the goal before planning. All right. Yes. Since everyone knew that they want to come back. Yes. Vary the default. All right. This is so great. Everybody's got a slightly different one. I think that's always so fascinating just to see the wide range of what we're all taking away from this. Since you have that, we're gonna do this next. So on a scale of 1 to 5, 1 being and 5 being how excited are you now to plan your next meeting? Just hold up your fingers. All right. I'm seeing some of those numbers went up. We can also just do a bunch of jazz hands for everybody. I love to go near my camera to remind people that like we are all here and real physical people. We're just not able to actually be in the same room because we called in from all over today. Okay. Since we have that chat open, thank you, Lee and Sarah, for throwing yours into the chat. Joan, Rachel, everybody threw theirs into the chat. Since we have that chat open, I would just love to know as you're leaving today, what's one thing you are thinking and one thing you're feeling? All right. A lot of people feeling energized, encouraged. Oh, that's one of my favorite words. I'm so glad that you're feeling encouraged today, Lee. Thinking about the necessary frequency. Yes. Thinking about meetings, anybody intentionally thinking about meetings is doing so much more than most people who are running their meetings. So, thinking about that guest list, thinking about the frequency, all of those things can really go into making meetings better for everybody, more productive, more fun to come back to. We are going to end on time today so that this is a good meeting. And so what I would love to invite everybody to do now is just to come off of mute. We're all going to come off of mute. It's okay if your background's a little bit noisy. I will count down 3, 2, 1, and then we're all just going to wave and say goodbye. If you have any questions for me, I will stick around after so you don't have to leave the Zoom meeting right away. If you don't have any questions, thank you so much for being here. I had such a wonderful time. I'm so excited to get to spend more time with this chat. I will be sending out a resource kind of follow up by the end of the week, and we're all off mute. So 3, 2, 1. Bye.
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 Bye,
Bye.
bye, bye, bye,
Thank you all
bye.
so much for being here. Bye. All right. If you are still here, I'm assuming it's because you have a question. And if not, the leave button is to the bottom right of your Zoom toolbar. All right. Hit me with your questions.
Okay, I'll go. I have two questions.
Yes.
One is ideas for how to do writing type things with people who can't read and write.
Okay.
So I do a lot of work in Asia, and a lot of the people that I'm working with are not able to read and write. Second question is a lot of Zoom meetings. Some screens have maybe 15 to 20 people on them, and some have one.
Mm-hmm.
And so how to create breakouts in a way that makes sense, because it would greatly vary.
Totally.
So
yeah, for the writing exercises for people who are not writing, I would probably recommend doing a pairs listening exercise instead. So putting them with one other person and giving them kind of give them a moment kind of maybe in the room collectively while you're making the breakout rooms. Just start thinking about your responses and then structure it. So it's you'll get 2 minutes to just say everything you want to say to your partner. They could potentially record that and transcribe it. I don't know if that's kind of possible. But just saying it to one person and kind of getting that not in front of everybody, if we just change that factor instead of writing. The other thing that's not writing or speaking is movement. So having them kind of embody how they might feel. And we have a facilitator called strike a pose. So if everybody could take a moment and just think about how they feel when something goes poorly, or how they feel when something goes great. And then just count down 3, 2, 1 and have everybody kind of hit a movement. And that's just another way to get them back in their bodies, get them to kind of have that moment of reflection that isn't just out loud, basically. And then as far as Zoom breakout rooms, you can send people into solo breakout rooms. It's actually kind of a unique experience. They're just in there alone. So a lot of times if I'm having people do a 5-minute writing exercise or something, I'll put everybody in their own breakout room so that they don't feel watched. You can also have people turn their cameras off if it's not a thing that you need them to leave the room for. But solo breakout rooms are a really interesting experience for participants. Some people kind of panic because they're somebody else is supposed to be in here with me. But I found that those can be really unique for people. And yeah, saying things out loud uh, by yourself and to one other person, I think can vary that group experience enough to really like make an impact.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, totally. Anyone with
Hi, Claire.
Hi.
I loved your presentation. It was such good energy and a lot of fun. I had a great time.
Thank you so much.
Question for you. In my current role, I don't do a lot of Zoom facilitation, but I'm looking to kind of grow in that way. What do you use to overlay your slides over your live camera?
This one, yeah. So this, if you have a Mac, if you have an Apple computer, okay.
Do not.
This is a Mac exclusive technology right now. Unfortunately, it's called eCam. But there is something called OBS, Open Broadcast Software. That learning curve is a little bit higher, but Meg, who is right next to me in my Zoom window, Meg's got some really wonderful tutorials to kind of like help people get started with OBS. There is also, they used to be called but they now have a better name, and it's called Airtime Tools. I'll put that in the chat right now for you. They are, I think it's a paid service, but they kind of do that. They do all of the fun like scenes and settings and things like that. So that's, yeah, it's great to not have to screen share. I really detest screen sharing. I think it throws everybody off and you can't see people. And so getting familiar with eCam and those kind of things are, I would say, a wonderful investment of your time.
Cool. And then one other question I had, I really liked how you navigated. It seemed like you ended earlier than you anticipated. So you threw a couple like last minute activities. How do you approach that? Do you just have like, 5 different like 1 minute questions each? How did you approach navigating that last like 3 minutes?
So I had the thinking and feeling was planned. The fill in the gap wasn't. And so my little secret are these facilitator cards. My cat has decided to join us all. But we make a product called facilitator cards, and
I have them and I use them.
Great. So you can kind of pull some backup cards for yourself. So the fill in the blank was kind of my like backup exercise. There are a bunch of these that are only 2 minutes long, and so like those are really great ways to throw that in there. But yeah, having some backups, I definitely thought I was going to talk slower than I did. That is kind of my big kryptonite is that I talk really fast. So I definitely got through some of the things faster than I had anticipated. So having a fill in the blank and just thinking about like as you're wrapping up, which is usually when that time crunch starts to happen, thinking about just like what do I hope people are taking away and what do I want to encourage them to kind of start thinking about as we're wrapping up.
Awesome. Thanks so much.
Yeah, totally. And Jado, did you have a question?
Sure. Thank you so much for, such a wonderful presentation. My name is Didor. I'm in Benin Republic. It's in West Africa, a French-speaking country. And yeah, I'm a facilitation enthusiast. And, I've been reading, about it, etc. And even like facilitating a couple, of workshops, right? Without ever having like a proper training and stuff. And what happened is that even today, I was contacted because there's an organization that needs a facilitator for 70 people. And yeah, that's happening next month. Well, I haven't got the contract yet, but yeah, I was recommended because maybe they said people saw my enthusiasm and, how I did. All right, I'm kind of freaking out. Yeah, because yeah, it's 70 people, right? And what do you recommend? What would you suggest me to do, and how should I go about it? And yeah, that's it.
Yeah, totally. So my kind of best plan of attack is always to have like a really solid plan that I feel really comfortable with. So writing out kind of like your goal, writing out maybe like the first agenda for this meeting looked pretty different than it ended up being. So I tend to think of things in like almost 5 minute chunks or blocks and kind of like what do I want them to get out of that and what am I doing during that. So thinking through your kind of like full agenda as soon as you can so that you can spend the next few weeks kind of like tweaking it as you run it. There are some really great videos that Meg here has on the Facilitator Cards YouTube page that just kind of go over like different things that you can do with groups or different ways you can kind of engage them to do things. But yeah, just varying their response as much as possible. And kind of keeping in mind that while we get very like concerned about what we're doing and like our kind of like what we're doing as facilitators, having a moment or like having kind of a day dedicated to thinking about like, okay, if I'm coming to this workshop, if I'm just a participant here, what am I doing throughout? In the first 5 minutes, am I talking to someone? Um, am I sitting here for 20 minutes in a lecture and then doing something? And so looking at it from their perspective would be like my number one kind of tip to make sure that like you know that you've varied that engagement so that they can kind of stay engaged throughout. And yeah, I will include links and things to like more kind of facilitation follow-up stuff as well.
All right. I mean, I would love you to mentor me, to coach me.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, 70 people, that can be overwhelming, but like try to think of them as all individual people, and just try to think of that like individual experience of what collectively they'll be getting out. And then if you have any like speeches or anything that you're running throughout it, I would recommend writing them down and then making like the shortest version of them possible, so that you're not reading off of your paper, but you're kind of prompted by like a word. Um, writing things down over and over again will get it in your body in like a different way than just practicing speaking. And then yeah, creating like the cheat sheet version for yourself so that you can kind of look up more than look down and read. That would be my other major suggestion.
Thank you so much. How do I go about getting coaching from you, or yeah, I
Yeah,
mean one-on-one coach?
absolutely. I have my website is where you can kind of book me from. There's a page called Book Your Meeting that'll take you to my Calendly, so you can sign up directly there, and that has my entire calendar on it, so you can just kind of pick whatever time works for you best. If there are like no times that really work, you can go ahead and email me directly, and that email is there for you now. It's just themeetingmedic@gmail.com. So if you have any kind of like if the website doesn't answer your questions, or if you just want to chat more over email, feel free to email me about any of that. And good luck.
Thanks a
That's
lot.
that's so great. I'm so excited for you and your 70-person contract. That's rad.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. All right. Have a good one.
Bye.
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 Thank you.